You didn't enter this world to play games. You came in honest, straightforward, heart open, hands clean. You thought if you were good, if you were kind, if you followed the rules, things would work out. You believed in fairness, in effort, in loyalty. You really thought that was enough. But they didn't come to play fair. They came to win. They smiled at you, shook your hand, called you friend, called you family, all while hiding loaded dice behind their back. You were playing chess. They were flipping the board. You were following the rules. They were rewriting them in secret. You showed them your heart. They showed you their mask. You told the truth. They told you what you wanted to hear. You stayed real. They stayed calculated. And when you lost, when everything slipped through your fingers, they didn't look surprised. They laughed. They laughed at your confusion, at your shock, at the way you stood there, trying to understand how you did everything right, and still ended up bleeding. You thought loyalty mattered. They thought loyalty was leverage. You thought promises meant something. They thought promises were tools. You didn't see it at first. How could you? You were innocent, hopeful, a rule-following soul. In a world that worships the ones who cheat, you kept asking, "What did I do wrong?" You replayed moments in your head. Was I not enough? Was I too much? Should I have tried harder? Listen, your mistake wasn't being weak. Your mistake was believing they were like you. They weren't. They had already mastered deception. They knew how to smile while planning your fall, how to praise you while plotting your replacement, how to act harmless while slowly turning everything against you. You walked into their game with your heart on the table. They walked in with a knife underneath it. But that was before the betrayal, before the lies, before the moment you finally saw what they really are. Something changed that day. You felt it, deep in your chest, deep in your bones. The first crack in your faith, the first spark in your anger, the first seed of defiance. You still played by their rules then, but not for long, because this was the beginning, the quiet prologue, the moment the naive version of you stepped into a world of liars and started to learn the game they never thought you'd understand, the dismantling. When you realize every smile hit a knife, it doesn't happen all at once. Trust doesn't explode, it erodes, slowly, quietly, like water wearing down stone. At first, you ignore it, the weird tone in their voice, the way they change the subject, the way they look at each other. Right after they look at you, you tell yourself, they're my friends. They'd never do that. They care. You cling to that until reality stops asking to be believed and starts forcing its way in. You see messages you were never meant to see. You hear things you were never meant to hear. You notice how comfortable they are, laughing at your pain, how easily they shift the blame to you for everything that goes wrong. Friends, lovers, allies, one by one, they step on your chest and act confused when you can't breathe. You start to realize you weren't surrounded by people. You were surrounded by players. They used your loyalty as a safety net. They used your love as a weapon. They used your honesty as a mirror they smashed the second they didn't like their reflection. You were the real one in the room, and for that, you became the easiest one to ruin. They underestimated you, not your intelligence, your threshold. They thought your kindness meant weakness. They thought your patience meant passivity. They thought your forgiveness meant they could do it again, and again, and again. You got played. You got used. You got discarded like a piece in a game. They had already decided you'd lose. The worst part isn't the betrayal itself. It's the humiliation, The humiliation of realizing you were the only one telling the truth, the only one feeling things deeply, the only one who meant what you said. You replay conversations in your head, that inside joke, that comforting hug, that promise of always. Now you see it, the hollow behind the words, the calculation in the timing, the performance. You tear through your own memories, trying to figure out when the knife first pressed against your back. You ask yourself, was any of it real? Did they ever care? Was I just convenient? The ground beneath you starts to crack. You don't know who you are to them. You don't even know who you are to yourself. If they could treat you like this, what does that say about you? Are you weak, stupid, naive? You start questioning everything. Your identity, your purpose, the meaning of fair. You were told that good things happen to good people, that if you loved hard, the world would love you back, that if you played fair, you'd win. But here you are, heart ripped open, reputation twisted, trust shattered, and the people who did it, they walk away laughing, untouched, unaffected, untouched by the fire they threw you into. You stare at the wreckage of your life, and you finally ask the question you were too scared to say out loud. If this is what fairness looks like, why would I ever play fair again? That is the dismantling, not just of your trust in them, but of your trust in the rules you were taught to obey. Every smile hit a knife, and now you're done pretending. You don't feel the blood. The curtain falls. The end of who you used to be. There is a moment when pretending becomes impossible. You feel it deep inside. That final crack, that final collapse, that final breath of the person you once were. And you know something inside you is ending. You stop lying to yourself. You stop defending the ones who hurt you. You stop giving excuses to people who never deserved them. You stop believing the world is fair. This is the moment the curtain falls. You stand there, surrounded by the ruins of your trust. And for the first time, you allow the truth to land without fighting it. You lost. You were betrayed. You were played, and you accept it. Not with tears, not with shaking hands, but with a cold, steady breath. Because the pain has been loud for too long. Now it finally settles into silence. A silence that doesn't beg for comfort. A silence that doesn't ask why. A silence that simply says, it happened, and it happened to me. Your innocence was their playground. The way you cared, the way you trusted, the way you believed. They took everything pure about you and treated it like a toy. Entertaining when useful, discarded when not. They mistook your goodness for weakness, your loyalty for blindness, your heart for an open door they could walk through whenever they pleased. And you let them, because you believed they'd treat you the way you treated them, but they didn't. And you finally accept that too. This is the quiet death, not of your body, not of your hope, but of the version of you that still believed people were better than they are. The version of you that waited, that hoped, that trusted without checking for knives. That version dies here, not violently, not tragically, just inevitably. You shed it like old skin. You peel it off layer by layer. The old habits, the old dreams, the old illusions, and as it falls away, you feel something else rise. Clarity, cold, sharp, unforgiving clarity. You see the game now, how it was always rigged, how the rules were never meant to protect you, how fairness was nothing but a story told to keep you obedient. You finally understand why you kept losing. You weren't playing the wrong moves. You were playing the wrong role. You were the honest one. In a world built on masks, you were the open soul. In a world of locked hearts, you were the light. In a place that worships shadows. But that ends now. The curtain falls. on the version of you that kept trying to be good in a world that punished goodness. And what stands in the dark, after the applause fades, after the audience leaves, after every lie has been exposed, is the real you. The you who no longer bends, the you who no longer apologizes, the you who no longer plays by rules, written by cheaters. This is the death of who you used to be, and the birth of someone they never wanted you to become. Enter the void, the stillness that teaches you everything. There comes a point where the noise finally dies. No more messages, no more explanations, no more begging the past to come back and make sense, just silence. At first, it feels like punishment, like the universe is mocking you. No one to call, no one to run to, no one to distract you from the burning inside your chest. You try to escape it. You scroll, you numb, you drown yourself in anything that keeps you from thinking. But eventually, everything runs out. The music stops meaning anything. The distractions lose their taste. The fake comfort stops working, and you're left alone with the one person you've avoided the most, yourself. You sit with the pain, not for a second, not as a passing visitor. You sit with it long enough to hear it speak. At first, it screams, blames, cries. Why me? How could they? Why wasn't I enough? You let it rage. You let it bleed. You let every ugly thought crawl to the surface and show you its face. And then, slowly, the scream becomes a whisper. The chaos inside you starts to settle. Silence becomes your teacher. You start to notice things you never saw before. How much of your life was spent trying to be chosen? How much of your time was wasted trying to prove yourself to people who had already decided you were disposable? You realize how loud they were inside your head. Their opinions, their expectations, their rules. Now they're gone. All that's left is emptiness. But that emptiness, it's not a void to fear. It's a blank page. You feel it, don't you? The space, the room to breathe, the terrifying freedom of not being owned by anyone's validation. Emptiness becomes structure. You start to rebuild your mind, not around them, around you. What do you want? What do you believe? What do you stand for? When no one is watching, no one is clapping, no one is handing you a script, the void becomes home. You stop running from the quiet. You walk into it. You sit in it like a throne. And from that throne, you study the world. You study human nature, the way people love conditionally, the way they perform kindness when it benefits them, the way they fear honesty but worship control. You see how easily they betray, how easily they lie, how quickly they change sides when it's convenient. You're not shocked anymore. You're observant. You stop saying, I can't believe they did that. And you start saying, of course they did. That's who they are. The void sharpens you. It teaches you how to think instead of just feel. It teaches you how to pause instead of react. It teaches you how to detach without disconnecting from yourself. And there, in that cold, sacred stillness, you start crafting something new, a new way of thinking, a new way of moving, a new way of existing that doesn't rely on their approval. You become your own counsel, your own judge, your own witness. You stop asking, will they like this version of me? And start asking, will I respect this version of me? The void doesn't comfort you. It confronts you. It strips away excuses. It exposes your patterns. It forces you to see how often you broke yourself just to fit into cages. And once you see it, truly see it, you can never unsee it. That's when everything changes. You are no longer just surviving the silence. You are using it, shaping it, turning it into the forge, where your new mind is made. This is where the world loses its control over you. Because once the void becomes your home, there is nothing left they can threaten you with. The rule breaker. Nothing is more dangerous than a mind rebuilt. There's a moment when you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and you start asking, "Why am I still playing by their rules?" Look at yourself. Look at everything you survived. You were lied to, used, thrown aside, and somehow you kept trying to win. In a game that was designed to make you lose, not because you were weak, but because you were conditioned to believe the rules were sacred. Be nice, be quiet, be polite, be forgiving, be small. Smile when it hurts. Stay when it breaks you. Clap for people who would never clap for you. No more. This is where it changes. This is where the rebuilt mind walks in and flips the table. You refuse to play the game their way. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You stop trying to prove that you're different, that you're good enough, that you're worthy. I won. You are done performing. You build a new logic. Cold, clean, precise. If it drains you, it goes. If it disrespects you, it loses access. If it tries to control you, it gets cut off at the root. No warnings, no speeches, just action. Society tells you to forgive endlessly, to love without limits, to understand people, even when they are deliberately cruel. Society worships your softness, as long as it makes you easy to use. So you break that. You reject their expectations. You reject their scripts. You reject their demand that you stay harmless. You weren't reborn to be harmless. You start seeing through illusions, through forced smiles, through fake apologies, through promises that sound sweet, but never match behavior. You stop listening to what they say. You watch what they do, and when their actions reveal them, you believe it the first time. You feel it now, don't you? That shift, that subtle tilt in your mind, that Joker-like twist of perspective that says, if the game is rigged, then I don't play. I change the rules. You walk differently, speak differently, think differently. You don't beg to be at the table. You build your own. You don't knock on doors anymore. You become the door. This is the first smirk of rebellion, the first quiet, dangerous smile that says, I am not what you designed me to be. I am what you created by underestimating me. Nothing is more dangerous than a mind rebuilt, the dark architect, building a self they can never manipulate again. There comes a phase where survival isn't enough anymore. You've already survived. You've already endured. You've already walked through every kind of hell they thought would break you. Now it's about something else. Now it's about construction. This is where you stop asking, how do I heal? And start asking, how do I build a version of myself they will never be able to touch again? You become an architect, not of buildings, of self. You look at your life like a blueprint. Every line, every fracture, every scar becomes information. You pick up every piece of your past, not to cry over it, to study it. Who did you trust? Why did you trust them? Where did they get inside your head? What did you believe that made you easy to control? You don't run from these questions. You dissect them. This is where you grow smarter, colder, sharper. They wanted your trauma to be your weakness. You turn it into strategy. You remember every time you were guilt-tripped into staying, every time you were emotionally blackmailed into silence, every time someone weaponized your empathy against you. You engrave those moments into your mind, not as open wounds, but as case studies. You learn the patterns. You learn the tactics. You learn the red flags. You used to romanticize. You promise yourself one thing: never again, not as a wish, as a rule. You start mastering emotional detachment, not by becoming empty, but by becoming selective. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone earns your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Just because they showed up and smiled, you stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You feel your heart harden, but not into stone, into diamond, still capable of love, still capable of loyalty, but no longer willing to shatter for anyone. You reinvent your identity from the ground up. No more defining yourself by what they did to you. No more obsessing over how they see you. No more letting their opinions be the mirror you check your worth in. Who are you when you are not begging to be chosen? Who are you when you are not clinging to people who keep dropping you? You build that person, piece by piece, habit by habit, boundary by boundary. You wake up earlier, you train harder, you focus deeper, you read what others avoid, you practice what others postpone, you face truths others lie to themselves about. You become disciplined in your thoughts. You catch yourself when you chase old patterns. You stop before you text that person back. You stop before you apologize for things that weren't your fault. You stop before you shrink yourself to make someone else feel bigger. You pull your power back, quietly, ruthlessly, relentlessly. You are no longer the person who needs people to like you. You are becoming the person who chooses who is even allowed to stand near you. This is not ego. This is architecture. You are building a self with foundations in self-respect, walls of awareness, and a roof of unshakable standards. You prepare for your rise, not with noise, but with precision. You learn skills, real ones, the kind they can't take from you with gossip or silence, the kind that follow you wherever you go. You train your mind to stay calm in chaos, to think clearly under pressure, to respond with intention, not reaction. You are designing a version of you that cannot be manipulated with shame, cannot be controlled with fear, cannot be broken with abandonment. Let them call you distant. Let them call you changed. Let them say you've become cold. They don't understand. You're not cold. You're calculated. You are the dark architect now, and every day, every choice, every boundary is another brick laid in the fortress of a self they will never be able to invade again. The reversal. When their games stop working on you, there is a day when everything feels different. The same people, the same words, the same tricks, but they don't land anymore. The guilt doesn't bite. The silence doesn't scare you. The drama doesn't pull you in. Their games stop working. It doesn't happen because they changed. They didn't. They're still lying, still twisting, still playing victim and villain at the same time. No, what changed was you. You understand manipulation now. You recognize the patterns, the sudden sweetness after disrespect, the half apologies that blame you for being too sensitive, the way they rewrite history to make themselves the hero of a story they ruined. You see motives instantly. When they compliment you, you check what they want. When they attack you, you see where they're insecure. When they disappear, you understand it's not a loss. It's a revelation. You stop taking it personally. You start taking it as data. You don't ask, why don't they love me, right? You ask, why am I still standing near people who don't even love themselves? They expect the old you, the one who defended yourself endlessly, the one who sent long messages explaining your side, The one who begged, "Please understand me." That version is gone. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't break. You let people misunderstand you. You let them talk. You let them twist the story until they're choking on their own lies. You never step in to correct them. Why would you? Truth doesn't need their agreement, and you don't need their approval. You become unpredictable. They expect you to explode. You stay calm. They expect you to cry. You smile. They expect you to stay. You walk away. Without a speech, without a warning. Nothing unsettles a manipulator more than losing access to your reactions. They poked you for years just to watch you flinch. Now, nothing. They send the bait. You don't bite. They push the buttons. You've changed the wiring. They try their old moves. You don't even blink. You're not cold. You're in control. You respond slowly, if at all. You choose your words like bullets, only when needed, never wasted. You leave messages unread. You leave questions unanswered. You leave situations that don't deserve your time, not as a game, as a boundary. And quietly, something begins to shift. Fear moves. It used to live in you. Fear of being abandoned, fear of being hated, fear of being replaced. Now it lives in them. They start to feel it. The distance, the detachment, the new version of you that doesn't crumble. When they walk away, they weren't prepared for this. They were prepared for the old you, the one they could push to the edge, just to see how far you'd go, to prove you're not like the others. When 17 now they're the ones on the edge because they realize they have no power over who you are anymore. They can't control your emotions. They can't predict your reactions. They can't use your empathy as a weapon against you. You cut the strings. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them panic. When you don't respond, let them feel the emptiness of losing access to someone they thought would always be there. You're not playing their game. You're not sitting at their table. You flipped the board and walked away from the room. This is the reversal. When their games stop working, when your silence is louder than your explanations, when your calm is more terrifying than your anger ever was, this is the moment they finally understand. They didn't break you. They trained you. They exposed themselves. They taught you the rules. And now, you're the one who knows how to win without even playing the unseen threat, the version of you they can't read or control. There is a moment when you finally see yourself clearly, not through their eyes, not through their labels, not through the lies they fed you, until you swallowed them like truth. You see yourself the way they never wanted you to, as power, pure, unfiltered, unapologetic. You step into a new identity, not crafted by their expectations, but carved from every storm you survived. This is where dominance begins. You stop being the predictable one, the easy one, the open book that people read only when they needed comfort or control or a distraction from their own emptiness. That book is closed now, locked, buried, burned. You don't explain yourself. You don't justify your decisions. You don't offer your soul to people who only came to take. Their labels fall off you like dead skin, too quiet, too emotional, too intense, too different. Good. Let them choke on their categories. You are done living in boxes, built by people who can't even understand themselves. You reveal a version of you they never saw coming because they never imagined their favorite target would become their biggest threat. You move differently now, calm, calculated, controlled. They can't read you anymore, not because you're hiding, but because you've grown beyond their level of understanding. Your silence unnerves them. Your confidence confuses them. Your lack of reaction terrifies them. You don't rise to their bait. You don't get tangled in their drama. You don't give them access to the emotions they used to feed on. You are untouchable now, not because you built walls, but because you built standards. You don't let just anyone near your peace. You don't let anyone into your mind. You don't let anyone decide your worth. You know who you are, and that certainty is more frightening than any scream of rage. You move like a storm that chooses when and where to strike. You speak with a precision that makes every word sound like a verdict. They can't predict you. They can't manipulate you. They can't decode you, because this version of you was not built from approval. This version of you was built from chaos, from betrayal, from silence, from the nights you had no one, from the moments you almost broke, but didn't. You carry that darkness with pride, not as a wound, as power. Every scar is a blueprint. Every tear is a warning. Every betrayal is a lesson, tattooed into your bones. You don't flinch anymore. You don't hesitate. You don't crumble. You look at the world with cold understanding and quiet fire. And in that gaze, in that stillness, in that unshakable presence, they finally understand. They cannot predict you. They cannot control you. They cannot break you. You are the unseen threat now, the quiet danger, the shift in the air. They can feel, but cannot explain. And for the first time, they fear you the way you once feared them.